Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm a general physician. Today I'll be talking on RAS system, that is renin, and action of renin. It is called as a renin-angiotensin system, or it is also called as renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAAS, RAS system, or previously it was also called as renin-angiotensin system. So only RAS. Now we'll be talking in detail regarding this particular part. Definition, physiology, and clinical features. That RAS system by final secretions of aldosterone. That aldosterone will act on a distal convoluted tubule and will increase the reabsorption of sodium and water. Hence, it will take part in regulation of sodium balance and water balance. So, plasma volume. And by that, it will also take part in control of blood pressure. But secretion of renin is a rate limiting step, and that will be producing angiotensin 2 before producing aldosterone. So mainly it takes part in maintenance of extracellular fluid volume plus blood pressure. Renin is the hormone which is secreted by juxtaglomerular apparatus. Liver will produce angiotensinogen that will be acted upon by a renin which is secreted by juxtaglomerular cells, and that will be converting angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, and that angiotensin 1 will be further converted into angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme, and that angiotensin 2 will be having effect on AT1 AT2 receptor, as well as it will act on a adrenal gland. It will act on an adrenal gland and release aldosterone, and that aldosterone will act on a distal convoluted tubule, increases the sodium and water reabsorption, and sodium excretion and water excretion into collecting tubules will reduce. In exchange of sodium, there is an exchange of potassium and H ions. This is the entire RAS system cycle, what we call. Juxtaglomerular apparatus will be stimulated by three main factors. We call dehydration, that is water imbalance, negative balance, hyponatremia, and hypovolemia, also because of hemorrhage. So water loss, blood loss, etc. will produce decrease in the blood volume. So because of the decrease in the blood volume, fall of blood pressure. Because of fall of blood pressure, decrease GFR. And that decreased GFR will stimulate the release of renin. That renin will act on angiotensinogen, will convert that into angiotensin 1. That angiotensin 1 will now be converted by an ACE enzyme, that is angiotensin converting enzyme, which is present in lung tissue, and that will convert angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. Now this angiotensin 2 has got effect on peripheral blood vessel producing vasoconstriction. It will be acting via AT1 and AT2 receptor. We will be dealing in little more detail further. And it will also act on the adrenal cortex, and it will release aldosterone. That aldosterone at the level of the distal convoluted tubule will increase the sodium and water reabsorption and will throw out potassium and H ions. And because it throws out potassium and H ions, it will result into hypokalemia and metabolic alkalosis. Plus, sodium level will be increase in blood and volume will also increase in blood. So producing mild hyponatremia and volume will increase. Because the blood volume increases, cardiac output will increase and it will increase your blood pressure. as well as direct effect of angiotensin on peripheral blood vessel will produce vasoconstriction. And because of vasoconstriction, peripheral vascular resistance is increased, and that will also help in elevation of blood pressure. As soon as the blood pressure comes to normal, the stimulus to the juxtaglomerular apparatus will decrease and renin production will also come down. And that is how there is a regulation of blood volume, blood pressure, sodium. So aldosterone will take part in regulation of blood volume, takes part in maintenance of blood pressure, and also regulation of sodium. Also, indirectly it will take part in regulation of potassium and H ions. So a person who has got hyperkalemia, aldosterone secretion will increase and potassium will be thrown out in urine. And also in case of what we call as acidosis, the H ion will be thrown out, and that will be another part as far as aldosterone regulation is concerned. That will be acting at the level of what we call as juxtaglomerular apparatus. So same thing now, this is what is little bit in detail. Angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2. That angiotensin 2 will be increasing sympathetic activity. By increasing the sympathetic activity, it will produce peripheral vasoconstriction and increases your blood pressure. Also, there will be little tachycardia. Acting on the tubules, sodium and water reabsorption, sodium chloride and water reabsorption. In exchange for sodium, potassium and H ions are thrown out. And that will increase your potassium and H ion excretion. So it will produce hypokalemia and alkalosis. Also, it will be stimulating aldosterone production. And that aldosterone will be acting on a distal convoluted tubule. So sodium is reabsorbed, chloride is reabsorbed, and water is reabsorbed in exchange for potassium and H ions. While it will be acting on a peripheral blood vessel, producing vasoconstriction, increases peripheral vascular resistance, and helps in elevation of blood pressure. Also, it will be acting on a posterior pituitary. Also, it will increase the thirst and it will increase the production of ADH. And that ADH will be acting on a distal convoluted tubule, further increasing pure water absorption. So plasma volume will increase. So this will be all the other effect of angiotensin 2 by acting on AT1 or AT2 receptor. This is by and large acting on a AT1 receptors. So angiotensin is converted into angiotensin 1, that is 453 amino acid is converted into 10 amino acids chain, which will be further converted into angiotensin 2, which is a 8 amino acid chain, which will be acting on AT1 and AT2 receptor. And by acting at that level, aldosterone, vasoconstriction, and sodium reabsorption. Direct action on peripheral blood vessel by angiotensin 2 and acting on a adrenal gland, releasing aldosterone that will be acting on a distal convoluted tubule, resulting into sodium and water reabsorption and excretion of potassium and H ions. So angiotensin 2 will be acting on artery by producing vasoconstriction, directly acting on a cardiac muscles, indirectly via acting on a medulla cardiorespiratory center, and it will produce cardiovascular response in the form of tachycardia and increasing the force of contraction and thus increasing the blood pressure. Also, that angiotensin 2 will be acting on a plasma, increasing the thirst and increasing the production of ADH, or we call vasopressin, which will increase the water reabsorption and increases the volume of blood and maintains osmolality. It will be acting on an adrenal cortex, increasing the aldosterone production, and sodium and water reabsorption will take place at distal convoluted tubule, increasing the potassium and H ion excretion, producing hypokalemia and metabolic alkalosis. Also, angiotensin 2 will be acting at multiple area. So we have already told you it will increase the hypertrophy of heart, producing the changes in the left ventricular hypertrophy Vasoconstriction, increasing the peripheral vascular resistance, helps to increase the blood pressure. Sodium and water retention by production of aldosterone, increasing thirst, increasing ADH secretion, so water retention and intake of water is increased. So that will also help to increase your blood volume. It also acts on a sympathetic system by acting at the central nervous system and increasing the sympathetic activity, by which it will produce increase in the heart rate and increasing the force of contraction. All this factor will take part in increasing in the blood pressure. There are two receptors where angiotensin 2 will be active, AT1 receptor and AT2 receptor. At AT1 receptor, it will produce vasoconstriction of coronary artery, renal artery and cerebral blood vessels. It will be also acting on a smooth muscle. It will produce sodium retention, water retention by ADH, and also sodium and water retention by means of aldosterone production. It activates sympathetic system, and it has got, by activating sympathetic system, it has got inotropic as well as a chronotropic effect on a cardiac muscle. These are all factors which will increase your blood pressure. While acting at the AT2 receptor, where usually it is not so much active, it will produce vasodilatation, anti-proliferation of endothelium, etc. It inhibits the cell growth. It takes part in repair. It takes part in apoptosis, decreases the growth of vascular structures and smooth muscle, and also it will be acting in a fetus on a brain and kidney. So these are all beneficial effects. So when you use a angiotensin receptor blocker, ideally this should not be blocked. These are all beneficial effects. These are the effect which is increasing the blood pressure. So you should have a more of AT1 receptor blocker, and AT2 receptor should not be blocked. That should be the basic effects. So this is that AT1 receptor acting on a kidney, acting on an adrenal gland, vascular smooth muscle, brain and myocardium. On myocardium, it increases the contraction and it decreases the collagen tissue formation. By acting on the kidney, it increases the intrarenal blood pressure by vasoconstriction and decreases the GFR. By decreasing the GFR, it will retain sodium and water. Also, it is acting on a renal tubules by aldosterone. So aldosterone will be producing sodium and water reabsorption. On adrenal gland, it is releasing aldosterone, and it is also releasing catecholamines. And that catecholamine will have an effect on the myocardium, increasing the contractility and tachycardia. Also, that catecholamine will produce vasoconstriction. Also, on a vascular smooth muscle, it will produce vasoconstriction, so increasing the peripheral vascular resistance, by which it increases your blood pressure. So blood pressure will be increased by effect on the kidney, effect on adrenal gland, effect on a peripheral smooth muscle. As well as it also stimulates the growth promoting factor, which will accelerate the atherosclerosis. This is a bad effect. So if there is a constant stimulation by angiotensin 2 at AT1 receptor, this is not a favorable effect. On a CNS, it is increasing the sympathetic activity, by which it will increase peripheral vasoconstriction and increases the cardiac output, inotropic effect, and by which it will help in elevation of blood pressure. As well as because of increased water reabsorption, and also because of ADH hormone action on a distal convoluted tubule, it will increase water reabsorption, so the blood volume will increase, and that will also help in increasing the blood pressure by increasing the cardiac output. Also, by increasing the thirst, it will have an increased water ingestion, so water will be retained more, and that will also increase your blood volume, and that will elevate your blood pressure by increasing the cardiac output. As soon as the blood pressure comes to a normal or it increases, there is a negative feedback and renin production will reduce. So angiotensin 2 production will also reduce, and this effect will be reduced, and that is how there is a regulation. By acting on a different receptor, angiotensin 2 is acting on a blood vessel, acting on a kidney, acting on a heart, acting on an adrenal gland, and also acting on a brain. By acting on a blood vessel, vasoconstriction, hypertrophy, endothelial secretions, endothelin secretions, monocytes activation, inflammatory cytokines, and reduces fibrinolysis. By all this mechanism, it will accelerate the atherosclerosis and it will be worsening of atherosclerosis. By acting at the kidney level, sodium and water reabsorption indirectly via aldosterone. Also, it produces the vasoconstriction of renal blood vessels by which it reduces the GFR and also increases the interstitial fibrosis. So, constant angiotensin 2 stimulation is a bad sign for kidney as well as blood vessel. Also on a heart, it will produce cellular hypertrophy by producing a left ventricular hypertrophy, monocytes, myocytes apoptosis replaced by fibrous tissue. So this will start producing what we call as a cardiomyopathy. Inflammatory cytokines will again produce a myocardial damage. Coronary vasoconstriction can lead to what we call as an ischemic changes. And you will have a pro-arrhythmic stimulation also. These are all bad effect on the heart. So constant production of an angiotensin 2 and aldosterone will produce a bad effect on blood vessels, effect on kidney, producing changes in the kidney and scarring of the kidney. On the heart, we call remodeling of the heart. And on adrenal gland, it increases the aldosterone secretion, which has got a bad effect on heart, kidney, as well as blood vessels. Directly acting on the brain, it produces an ADH production, and it also increases the sympathetic activity and it increases the thirst. So these are all the effect what can take place because of angiotensin 2, which is a part of renin angiotensin cycle. Renin angiotensin aldosterone cycle, we should say. So angiotensin 2 has got a acceleration of atherosclerosis by oxidative stress, by endothelial dysfunction, by inflammation, and by tissue remodeling. And it takes part in all this by many mechanisms. These are all the different mechanisms. NAD, oxidase activity, reactive oxygen species, LDH peroxidase, decrease in nitric oxide, vasoconstriction, PAI1 activation, platelet aggregation, vascular permeability, leukocyte infiltration, then signaling pathway, inflammatory mediators, proliferation, vascular smooth muscle proliferation, matrix deposition, MMM activation. These are all many pathways, and it will produce increased oxidative states, increased inflammation, tissue remodeling, endothelial dysfunction. All this will accelerate atherosclerosis, and finally it will produce ischemic heart disease as well as cerebrovascular disorders. And these are all the different media by which it will be accelerating the atherosclerosis. These are inflammatory mediators. This is lipic oxidation. These are growth factors. These are growth factors. This is tissue growth factors. This is platelet factors. And this is decreased nitric oxide synthesis. These are all which will accelerate the atherosclerosis. This will lipic oxidation, adhesions, etc. So by acting at the AT1 receptor, it will accelerate atherosclerosis, vasoconstriction, vascular hypertrophy, endothelial dysfunction, which will increase your hypertension. By acting on the heart, left ventricular hypertrophy, fibrosis, remodeling, apoptosis, it will result into LVH with cardiomyopathy types of picture, heart failure and MI. On acting on a kidney, decreases the perfusion by vasoconstriction, GFR, proteinuria, aldosterone release, and it will produce glomerular sclerosis. So a person can end up with a renal failure, CKD. And at the level of the cerebral perfusion, it can produce stroke by accelerating atherosclerosis. So stroke, hypertension, heart failure, MI, renal failure, etc. are the side effects because of constant stimulation of AT1 receptor. And that particular can end up with mortality, very high mortality. So do keep it in mind. You don't require elevated level of angiotensin 2 and aldosterone. That angiotensin 2 will be converted further and broken down. But while angiotensin 2 is acting at AT2 receptor, it will produce vasodilatation, natriuresis and growth inhibition. These are favorable effects. These are favorable effects. And these are deleterious effects. Sodium retention, growth promotion and vasoconstriction. That is why acting at AT1 receptor. So we don't want AT1 receptor stimulation. So this should be blocked. This action should not be blocked. This is a favorable effect. While doing that, it is also increasing bradykinin production. And as it increases the bradykinin production, that bradykinin will be converted into inactive fragments by ACE enzyme, and the action of bradykinin will be nullified. Also, bradykinin will be acting on prostaglandins and nitric oxide, and that will be a favorable effects. And that nitric oxide and prostaglandin is acting as a vasodilator, natriuretics and growth inhibitions. So these are the beneficial effects and these are deleterious effects of angiotensin 2. Aldosterone directly at the level of the distal convoluted tubule, it reabsorbs sodium and potassium and H ion is thrown out, resulting into hypokalemia and metabolic acidosis. And because sodium is retained, mild hypernatremia with volume overload. So water is retained, and that will be the effect on distal convoluted tubule. Also, aldosterone will be directly acting at the heart, producing LVH, atrial fibrillations. Also, it will result into fibrosis, cardiac remodeling, cardiomyopathy, heart failure. And also it will be producing vasoconstriction, producing increased vascular resistance and resistant hypertension, elevation of blood pressure and resistant hypertension. So this is a deleterious effect because of constant elevation of aldosterone. So aldosterone will have a deleterious effect, sodium retention, hypertension, endothelial dysfunction. It is a triggering factor for ventricular arrhythmias, potassium and magnesium loss resulting into hypokalemia and hypomagnesemia, catecholamine potentiation by which it will produce tachyarrhythmias, myocardial fibrosis we call a remodeling. It has got a prothrombotic effect, increasing the incidence of a thrombosis, and also it increases the vascular inflammatory and damage. All these are deleterious effect of aldosterone. So aldosterone will produce those deleterious effects by these different mediators. These are inflammatory mediators, these are growth factors, these are extracellular material, collagen tissues and PAI1. It also produces cell proliferation by fibroblast growth and fibroblast proliferation, which will be resulting into glomerulosclerosis, interstitial fibrosis, tubulointerstitial fibrosis and scarring of kidney. So this will be a bad effect, and this aldosterone secretion can increase because of angiotensin 2, hyponatremia, dyslipidemia and also because of hyperglycemia. All this can increase aldosterone production and that will activate and result finally into renal scarring. There is something called as an alternative pathway. First we'll tell you the classical pathway, angiotensinogen converted into angiotensin 1, angiotensin 2 and that will be acting at the AT1 and AT2 receptor mainly. But this particular angiotensin 2 can be also indirect way, alternative pathway like tissue plasminogen activator, cathepsin G and tonin. These three will be acting directly on angiotensin 2, and also there are other like cathepsin GA, kinase and CAGE which will be taking part and stimulating angiotensin 2, and that angiotensin 2 will be now acting on AT1 and AT2 receptor. So instead of classic pathway you can have an alternative pathway which can also produce deleterious effect of angiotensin 2, which will be acting at the level of angiotensin AT1 receptor. So while angiotensin is acting on a AT1 receptor, it will produce deleterious effects. So that is the main thing. ACE inhibitor will block this bradykinin conversion into inactive products, and that bradykinin will produce cough. Now, if you go through metabolism of angiotensin 2 will be converted into 7 chain, 1,7 chain by ACE2 enzyme, and angiotensin 1 will be also converted into 1,9 amino chains by ACE2. So that will be anti-growth and vasodilatation effects. This will be anti-growth and vasodilatation effects. And this angiotensin 2 will be converted into angiotensin 3 and finally into angiotensin 4. We don't go into tremendous detail of that particular part. And this is what will be happening if it is acting on an angiotensin 2 receptor, vasoconstriction, sodium retention, collagen growth, oxidative stress. These are by acting of a angiotensin 2 on angiotensin 1 receptor. Sorry, this should be on a angiotensin 1 receptor, and ARB will be blocking that particular receptor, AT1 receptor. So this will be by acting on a AT1 receptor. So this is that conversion and acting on the AT1 receptor, vasoconstriction, aldosterone secretion, sodium retention, cell proliferation, oxidation, etc. But while acting at the AT2 receptor, vasodilatation, anti-proliferation, and anti-growth factors. So that is a beneficial effect. Renin release is controlled by perfusion, which is regulated by baroreceptors. So fall in a blood pressure increases the renin production, and by increasing the renin production, it takes part in a regulation of blood volume, regulation of blood flow, and blood pressure. Also, by acting at the sympathetic system, it will increase the renin production. Also, sodium, low sodium is a stimulus for increased renin. This is, I'm not going into detail, it is called as a Goldblatt hypertension. So if a person, while you are doing, you constrict the clamp on a renal artery of one kidney after other kidney has been removed, so you are producing indirectly what we call as Goldblatt hypertension, and that is a peculiar phenomena while you are doing a nephrectomy. There is also something called the two kidney Goldblatt hypertension. It is mainly important from the point of view that is, hypertension will occur when there is a stenosis of a single renal artery and you are clamping the one kidney, and that will produce two kidney Goldblatt hypertension. Renin secretion is increased by hypotension, hyponatremia, dehydration, and renal artery stenosis, that is decreased blood flow to the kidney. So all these conditions will stimulate the renin production, while hyponatremia, overhydration, and in a severe renal parenchymal damage, now the renin production will be low. So these are some of the stimulatory effects, these are some of the inhibitory effects, and all this factor will increase the release. Hyponatremia, diuresis, hypotension, hemorrhage, upright posture, dehydration, congestive heart failure, cirrhosis, renal artery stenosis, etc. will increase the renin production. So these are some of the stimulatory factors, these are inhibitory factors. Even potassium will be responsible for aldosterone secretions. So in a person with increased potassium, increased plasma potassium, the aldosterone production will increase and you will have a loss of potassium by kidney, and that will try to regulate your potassium balance. And also in a case of what we call as a Acidosis. The person will have a aldosterone release. Mainly more stimulus by potassium imbalance rather than acidosis. So aldosterone secretion will be increased by ACTH, hyponatremia, serotonin, acetylcholine, VIP vasoactive peptide, and inhibited by ANP and dopamine. Inhibited by these two, ANP and dopamine. As soon as the blood volume is increased, ANP will be secreted and that will inhibit aldosterone production. This is blood osmolality. It will also have an effect on ADH hormone, and indirectly it will also have an effect on what we call as juxtaglomerular apparatus and decreasing the renin production. Renin production. So depending upon the blood osmolality. So if the blood volume is increased, water content is increased, osmolality will decrease. And once the osmolality decreases, meaning if the blood volume is more, we want more output. So if there is a more output, thirst will be inhibited, ADH hormone will be inhibited, so you will have a more urine output, and you will have inhibition of renin also, so which will not retain water. But in case of person who has got increased osmolality, ADH hormone will be secreted, so increased water reabsorption, increased thirst by acting at the posterior pituitary, releasing the ADH hormones. So that will be water reabsorption and stimulating the hypothalamus, will be stimulating increased thirst, and by increasing the renin production at the juxtaglomerular apparatus because of decreased perfusion, and what we call as osmolality also will stimulate that, and renin production will increase, which will increase water and sodium reabsorption, thus increasing the blood volume and increasing the osmolality, and that is how it will be regulated. So aldosterone production and aldosterone will result into increased water and sodium reabsorption. Same thing, so we have told you sodium and potassium. Hyperkalemia and hypokalemia is a powerful stimulus directly to adrenal gland and can produce increased production of aldosterone, while decreased blood perfusion to the kidney, hypotension, hypovolemia, renin production, and that will be directly acting via angiotensin 2 and releasing aldosterone. Stress will also stimulate ACTH, and that ACTH will be acting on an adrenal cortex, producing increased production of aldosterone. Increased blood pressure, increased blood volume will stimulate ANP, and that ANP has inhibitory effect, while all these are stimulatory effects. All these are stimulatory effects, all these three. So ANP is inhibitory, and that will inhibit the aldosterone production. And you know very well, aldosterone will be acting on a distal convoluted tubule, producing sodium and water reabsorption, and potassium and H ion will be thrown out, and that will produce final end result will be hypokalemia, metabolic alkalosis, hypernatremia, and increased blood volume, which will decrease your osmolality. Same thing shown separately, potassium, how it is being regulated, and this is how a renin stimulus acts via angiotensin 2 on cardiovascular system and adrenal gland and helping to regulate the blood pressure. Already we have discussed before. This is how ANP is acting. This is how ANP is acting. So stretching of the myocardial cell releases the atrial natriuretic peptide, and that ANP will be acting at the hypothalamus level, inhibits the ADH production, acting at the kidney level because it will increase your GFR, decreases renin. So sodium and water reabsorption is reduced. So sodium chloride and water will be thrown out, and acting at the adrenal cortex inhibits the aldosterone. That will also decrease your sodium and water reabsorption, and thus sodium will be thrown out in urine. Sodium and chloride will be thrown out in urine. It will also act at the medulla and decreases the sympathetic activity, thus decreasing the blood pressure. So that will be the action of ANP. And this is fall of the blood pressure, decrease GFR, decrease sodium, so stimulation of nitric oxide, and that will be acting at the juxtaglomerular apparatus, releasing sodium, releasing renin, and that renin will be acting on an angiotensinogen, and that RAS system will be activated. Also, cardiovascular center will be activated, increases the sympathetic activity, which will also increase the renin production. And directly, even hypotension can have action at the juxtaglomerular apparatus and increases the renin production, because there will be renal artery vasoconstriction, and that will increase your renin production, and that is how the blood pressure will be regulated. This is how the ANP works. Indirectly action of an ANP. So increase aldosterone, increase sodium and water retention, increase in extracellular fluid, increase cardiac output, increase in blood pressure. Because there is an increase in blood pressure, there will be pressure diuresis. Also, it will increase the secretion of ANP, BNP and CNP from cardiac muscle, and that will increase your excretion of sodium and water and will decrease the extracellular fluid volume. And this will be what we call as a regulation of water balance, sodium balance. This is a very complicated diagram. Indirectly, we will be doing in short. Blood pressure and kidney. Decrease in GFR will be having a positive effect on extracellular volume. Renin angiotensin 2 will be acting via aldosterone. Sympathetic system will be directly acting by producing vasoconstriction, as well as it will also increase the production of aldosterone. Prostaglandins will inhibit sodium reabsorption. Endothelin will be stimulating vasoconstriction. Kinins, PAF and nitric oxide will produce vasodilatation. So indirectly, this increase in extracellular fluid volume will increase your cardiac output, but vasoconstriction will produce increase in peripheral resistance, and by these two your blood pressure will be elevated. This is the action at the level of kidney. Blood pressure regulation. What we call as a vasoconstriction will be because of decreased blood flow and decreased GFR. So vasoconstriction will end up with a decreased blood flow and decreased GFR. And this is done by sympathetic nerves, angiotensin 2, endothelin, AVP, we call vasopressin, norepinephrine, catecholamines. And vasodilatory effect is by prostaglandins, nitric oxide, bradykinin and ANP. And because of vasodilatation, increase in renal blood flow, increase in GFR. And that will be indirectly producing increased sodium excretion and thus regulating sodium and water balance. Why? Natriuresis will be stimulated by ANP, prostaglandins, bradykinin and dopamine. So sodium reabsorption will be reduced and excretion will be increased. Opposite of that will be done by aldosterone, angiotensin 2, AVP, arginine, vasopressin and sympathetic stimulation. So that will increase your sodium reabsorption and thus hypernatremia and hypervolemia, and sodium excretion in urine will be reduced. The importance of a RAS system is because RAS system is correlated with left ventricular hypertrophy, that is because of angiotensin 2 effect and aldosterone effects. Also RAS is responsible for cardiac arrhythmias like tachyarrhythmias, atrial fibrillations. RAS accelerates what we call as stroke by increasing atherosclerosis. Also it is increasing the inflammatory mediators by which it also accelerates type 2 diabetes mellitus. Indirectly by increasing insulin resistance. It also increases sympathetic activity and by which it will take part in elevation of blood pressure, and also it will produce resistant hypertension by increasing the aldosterone production, and also it will be responsible for remodeling of the heart. and it can also increase chances of congestive heart failure because of the remodeling, tachyarrhythmias, left ventricular hypertrophy, etc., and resistant hypertension. All these are secondary due to RAS system activation and excess of RAS activation. So for that particular, you require angiotensin receptor blocker or angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, or you can use a direct renin inhibitors. So by that you can increase your chance of damage by, you can decrease the chance of damage by angiotensin 2 and aldosterone. So when you use what we call as a ACE inhibitor, ARB and ACE inhibitor, they will be acting mainly at the peripheral vasoconstriction and hypertension level, and the RAS system which was stimulated will be inhibited, and that is how it will be acting. But when you use a direct renin inhibitor, it will inhibit the renin action and there will be no RAS system activation. After RAS system activation, you can use ARB and ACE inhibitor, and you can also use what we call as a peripheral receptor blockers, that is aldosterone antagonist. Aldosterone antagonist, you can use those. So these are all the things what can be used, that is we call aldosterone antagonist, spironolactone, which will be blocking AR receptor and MR receptor. MR receptor. MR receptor can be also blocked by epileron. Epileron. Cortisol can also block this receptor. Aldosterone synthesis can be blocked by somatostatin, ANP, dopamine and decoxin. This is AT1 receptor. AT1 receptor. So if you block AT1 receptor, you will get that particular effect by angiotensin receptor blocker and ACE receptor, angiotensin converting enzyme. But when you use angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, it also blocks AT2 receptor, and that is not required. That is not required. So that is how it will be acting at the level of aldosterone synthesis and blocking aldosterone production. So these are all the things what we can discuss in RAS system activation and RAS system, and how you block RAS system and get a beneficial effect. So I end my lecture here. I hope this will be beneficial to you.